Well, let's get more on UKIP and Douglas Carswell leaving the party this morning. He announced it on his website a few hours ago, and I'm pleased to say that he can join us now live from our studio in Westminster. Mr. Carswell, thank you very much for speaking to us on short notice. Let's start with why you've decided to make the decision.
Because we've achieved what we set out to achieve. On Wednesday, Theresa May will be triggering Article 50. That means the central purpose of UKIP, to get us out of the European Union, we've won. Let's declare victory with honour.
So is UKIP now an irrelevant political party?
I'm not going to say unkind things. There are lots of people who are going to stay in UKIP. But, you know, I think that many millions who made the switch to UKIP like me will now recognise that, you know, job done, and some will decide to move on. But, you know, to those who decide to remain, I wish them well.
And what would you say to Nigel Farage after you've now left the party that he's a member of? Has he made it impossible for you to be an MP?
I think we've got to respect that Nigel is one of the key reasons why we had a referendum, and I think we need to say kind things about any one of the 17.5 million people who voted leave on June the 23rd last year. I'm not going to say unkind things about any fellow Eurosceptic. In fact, I'm not going to say unkind things about those who voted Remain. I think we need to recognise that we've achieved what we set out to achieve, and we should be pleased. I'm a little bemused and perplexed as to why some people are so grumpy since June the 23rd.
Now, in a book called The Brexit Club that was released, and the author, Owen Bennett, who's often on Sky News, claims that you joined UKIP to undermine Nigel Farage. True or not?
There was nothing. You know, the idea that I was involved in sort of subterfuge or some sort of covert operation is nonsense. I called a press conference in central London on August the 28th, 2014, and I said at that press conference very clearly when I was announcing that I was joining UKIP that UKIP and Euroscepticism needed to be positive and upbeat. When I won the Clacton by-election a few weeks later, I gave a speech where I said Euroscepticism to win the referendum needed to be a force that appealed to all Britain and all Britons, first and second generation, as much as every other. I spent the referendum campaign arguing that the people running the campaign should be positive and broad-minded. You know, I don't think any of this is something that I've kept secret, and it's no secret either that some within UKIP wanted to make sure that UKIP ran the referendum campaign. You know, I've been pretty open about the fact that Euroscepticism, to be a force for change, needs to be inclusive, upbeat, progressive and forward-looking.
Last question on Mr. Farage, I promise. How's your relationship with him at the moment? Have you spoken to him at all?
I haven't spoken to him for a long time. One of those by-elections that we lost, one before Stoke, I can't remember the name, there have been quite a few. That was about the last time we spoke. But, you know, I wish Nigel well, and I just wish he would be a little bit more positive about the fact that on Wednesday we win.
OK, let's talk about the possibility of a by-election. I'm looking at your website where you wrote an article in November 2015 entitled "How to Resign and Spark a Tricky By-Election." So one of your rules for resigning says always call a by-election, insist on a by-election. It's the only honourable way. So why are you not going to do that now?
Well, because I'm not doing what I did in 2014 when I switched parties. Then I was moving from one party, the Conservative Party, to UKIP, and I felt, for the first time in 30 years, an MP felt honour bound to call a by-election when switching parties. But I'm not doing that. I am leaving a party. Now, if you think about this logically, if every time someone was either removed from or thrown out or removed themselves from a party in Westminster, there had to be a by-election, far from strengthening people's accountability over their lawmakers, it would actually empower the people who ran parties. So I'm afraid I'm being absolutely rigidly consistent with the principles of direct democracy. If you move from one party to another, you should call a by-election. If you are simply leaving a party, you're under no obligation to do so.
But that's also at odds, sorry to interrupt, Mr. Cars, that's also at odds with what is in the same article on your website. The last rule of yours is join a new party if you resign. If you believe in radical political reform in the spirit of the Chartists, respect the free market and want to break up the political and economic cartels, you join a new party.
On precisely which note, in order to break up the political oligarchy that dominates politics and gives us this, I was going to say duopoly, but actually the political system in Westminster is now almost a monopoly. I have some ideas on precisely how to do this, how to have politics without political parties dominating it, and I'm advocating some of these ideas, and I have a book out about this, and this is an agenda that I think needs to be pushed. We do need political reform in this country. When I joined UKIP, I felt that UKIP could be a force for change, but I suspect that actually real radical political reform means doing politics without parties, or rather parties as we conventionally recognise them.
OK, Mr. Carswell, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time.
You didn't, frankly, have the balls to put country before party.